You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it.
Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. I'm Garrett Bolkus, your host, and across from me I've got Grant. Say hello, Grant.
Hey, everybody.
And today's a really kind of neat one that we're going to drop for you guys. This is going to be one that's both semi-controversial and informational, so it kind of has a little bit of a dual purpose, dual feel to it. Our special guest today is going to be Shane Jones from Sandy Hill Hunting Company. You've heard us talk about him before. You can watch us hunt with him. And what we're going to do today is kind of take a dive into going on an outfitted hunt. And we're going to explain that a little bit more in detail. But first, we got to get this out and on the table. And that is, if you like this podcast, then you'll love our YouTube channel. This podcast is brought to you solely by Last Breath Media and Last Breath Hunting Company. We have a YouTube channel that is going off and kicking on all cylinders, Carbon TV. Our social media is banging. And if you like this podcast, like I said, I want you to check out our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it if you could subscribe to it, hit that bell notification. At the end of this podcast, we're going to explain to you just how crammed that YouTube channel is, our fall is just chocked full of awesome videos that we're dropping on there. 5 videos per week for about a 12-week stretch. Yeah, and that's all for you guys. There's a little bit of everything in there, from full-length, fully produced episodes to really rough cut, behind-the-scenes stuff. And we'll get into that, like I said, at the end of the podcast. But today, like I said, our podcast is both controversial and informational. Shane has been professionally guiding for over 25 years. He's hunted all over the world in different states, countries, regions, areas. He's hunted dozens of different species. And today, what we're going to really go and dive into and really dig up the details is the ins and outs of going on an outfitted hunt or going on a guided hunt. You know, what essentially Shane is going to tell for us are the do's and don'ts, the rights and wrongs, and really what you should expect from your hunting guide or your hunting outfitter and what they should expect from you. We're going to go over topics like standard tipping practices, gear practices, and so on and so forth. He's going to kind of try to highlight things that you should look for in a reputable outfitter, things that are going to be red flags to steer away from if it looks too good to be true, potentially it is, etc. So if you're like us here on the Last Breath team, we generally don't get an opportunity to go every year. It feels like we have, though. Yeah. Which is pretty amazing. But, for most working class people, most hardworking hunters, this is something that is really a treat. You're going with your friends maybe once every other year or once every 3, 4, 5, especially when you start looking at some of your bucket list hunts or your dream hunts. So hopefully this answers some questions for you guys if you're thinking about going on a hunt. I don't care if you're going turkey hunting or moose hunting. I think this is going to be pretty informational, pretty good. And like I said, we're going to dive into some things that might be a little edgy. Shane's got some horror stories from clients, and I think it'll be important for you guys to listen to him. And he's also have some really awesome stories to share with us. So I'm going to call him right now. It's 4 on the button, and as promised, I told him I would dial in there. He said he's been drinking a little bit today, so he might be edgy.
Second ring.
Second ring.
That's my guess.
Just smiling, thinking about how he's going to answer it.
Oh, dang it. Third ring? Come on, Shane.
If it goes to voicemail, I'm going to give him shit.
What's up?
Hey, buddy. Well, we expected you to pick up on the second ring. You went all the way to 4.
Well, I had to get myself together. I've been drinking Trulies all day and Mad Dog 2020.
Oh, really? Man, and are you putting lotion on your hands too?
I can't believe after all the things that I've given you as a friendship, that's the one thing you stick me with in your video, the lotion.
Oh, well, we are live on the podcast, and we're excited to have you on here. We gave a very brief introduction of who you are, what you have done, but Shane, go ahead and tell the listeners what they need to know about you, from where you live, how old you are, your family, anything and everything in between.
So my name is Shane Jones. I live in Colorado. I was born and raised in Colorado on a big ranch. I am a Colorado native. I am currently married and just had our first child 3 months ago. His name is Trap Jones. So he's destined to be a hunter for sure. I'm 45 years old. I still think I can go in the mountains like 20-year-olds. And that's me in a nutshell. All
right. So where can they find you? Do you know what your social media handles are? How they can find the Shane Jones?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for Sandy Hills Hunting. Sandy Hills Hunting is owned by one of my very good friends. His name is Jeremy Fiscus. You can find us at sandyhillshunting.com. We also are on Instagram at Sandy Hills Hunting, and we have our Facebook page. So got a pretty good social media presence out there that we're trying to build, but we're pretty much all over. So our website's super dynamic. It's got team member descriptions and stuff like that. So that's where we're at.
So I think it's important to note that one thing about Sandy Hills is you guys are very humble, but I think right now, Shane, is where you have an opportunity to kind of brag a little bit. Sandy Hills doesn't do things small, and they don't do things half-assed. I mean, you have a tally counter on your website of how many 200-inch mule deer you guys have harvested. Do you know what that number's up to yet?
I'm not really sure what that number's up to, but I don't think there's very many people in the Western United States that can boast numbers like that. Just the number of deer that we've shot. I mean, that's where Sandy Hills kind of got their the namesake and the reputation in the start. Our owner, Jeremy, the guy has shot more 200-inch mule deer than most of us have ever seen in our lives. And we just kind of got our start with the big mule deer. And we're known for trophy hunts. We want to keep it that way. We want to sell the best experience there is out there. But we've been able to branch out. We now offer a whole lot other hunts. We've got elk hunts and lion hunts, antelope hunts, whitetail hunts, bear hunts. So we're a super diverse company with a super diverse group of guys. It's exciting to be a part of the growth and see where we've came from and what we're hoping to do down the road in the future.
So Grant just pulled up the website. Rattle off the stats there, buddy.
All right, so the mule deer bucks over 180, Shane. You guys have 48. Keep in mind, everybody that's watching the video podcast or listening right now, they started in 2015, so these are all deer that have been shot in the last 5 hunting seasons. So 48 bucks over 180, 28 bucks over 190, and 20 bucks over 200 in the last 5 years. So that means you're banging 4 200s a year, about 5 190s a year, and every year you guys shoot about 10 deer over 180. So that's incredible, and I'll pat you on the back like Garrett said, Shane. I mean, there's nobody that out there, in my opinion, and I follow a lot of social media pages that's putting down more quality mule deer than you are, which that's going to be one of the subjects of our talk today is, going on an outfitted hunt and getting that quality and what that means and what you're paying for and stuff like that. But that kudos to you. That's a shitload of big bucks, man.
It's a shitload of big bucks. And we try to stay humble in what we do and let the animals speak for themselves. I mean, I'm trying to think. I know in the last 3 years, I'm pretty sure that we've shot 3 deer over 235 inches in the last 3 years. 235-inch mule deer. So,
and I think right now is one time to highlight and preface that you guys don't have trophy fees. And I think that's amazing, especially given the caliber of deer that you guys hunt. You guys have what I consider, for the package that you're getting, a fair number. And we won't talk about hunt costs right now, but like, you don't stick them with an adder for one of these absolute mega multiple lifetime deer. I mean, the hunt is what it is.
Well, to be honest with you, Garrett, I mean, all the pricing is controlled by Jeremy. We do our best. All of us, all the guys that work for Jeremy, 3 of the guys in particular are some of my best friends in the world. We're super tight knit, and we believe in the experience. We think of ourselves as literally the best company out there. And look, man, I'm not going to kid you. I'm not going to bullshit you guys. There's a lot of fucking jealousy that goes with that tag, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we get some pushback from some other outfitters. And with jealousy, you got to have wide shoulders and be humble in what you do and just let your work produce year after year. There's people out there, guys, that have success, right? But they don't generate success year after year after year after year after year like we do. And that's the mark of somebody exceptional, right? There's people that do this shit for 1 year, 2 years. They get one good lease and smack a couple good deer, and all of a sudden everything blows up. Well, what's that lease going to do in 2 or 3 years for those guys down the road? We want to be the guys that produce 10 years from now, and we're doing the same thing and shooting those exceptional deer, shooting those exceptional elk, and providing an experience for those people that they'll never forget. So we want to give you the best value for the dollar. And I know our hunts aren't the cheapest out there, but on the same hand, I think dollar for dollar, I don't think anybody for sure in Colorado and maybe the Western United States can compare with what Sandy Hills has to offer.
No. So I mean, I think you got an idea of what we're going to cover in today's topics, but in a nutshell, Shane, we're going over do's and don'ts, really good practices, bad practices for both guides, hunters, and outfitters. So to start it off, I want to really paint a picture for how much experience you have in this industry, because Sandy Hills isn't the only place that you've guided for. So if you could, can you tell us where you started guiding and then kind of your transition to Sandy Hills?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, like I said, I'm 45 years old. I've always had a passion for the mountains. I got that from my grandfather. One of my best friends guides for us also. His name is Robert Hawk. He's on our website. Robert and I's grandfather, him and his father had a small guiding outfit and business, and they took a lot of hunters out. So early on, I started helping out. I mean, I grew up on the back of a horse in high mountain camps and stuff like that, chasing big mountain muleys and stuff. Kind of when I was 12 years old, I really started helping out in camp. And then when I was 15 years old, I started guiding full times in the fall for a gentleman back on the western slope of Colorado. His name was Drew Kassar. Drew had a great big elk ranch. He had about 4,600 acres that was high fence. They were all trophy elk. And then he had, I don't know, I would say probably an additional 20 to 30,000 acres of lease land around there where he offered just Colorado elk hunts and deer hunts and stuff like that. So yeah, I was 15 years old and started my guiding career in the falls full time. I kind of bounced around with some work, not with my guiding career, but my career took me different places over the years, and I took a couple years off. And then about 4 years ago, Jeremy and I, my wife and Jeremy have been really, really close for years and years and years. And I had got the business together enough that I could start taking some time off in the falls. And Jeremy said, I'd love to have you come over with me and just help out. So he gave me an opportunity to come over there and kind of showcase my talents and skills. And now that I'm at where I'm at in my career, it really gives me a time to focus and do the things that I really love, and probably one of the things that I'm good at. So,
well,
yeah.
and you've hunted all over. I mean, we just to let everybody know, my wife and I just recently went out and saw Shane and Robert and met them, kind of got to see their stomping grounds. And you don't even realize the book of stories that you guys have. I mean, you've been to Alaska hunting. Where all have you hunted? How many species have you hunted and guided for? I mean, Robert was telling us about the cougar hunts that he's been on and all these other crazy adventures.
So, me personally, I've probably guided hunts I was trying to think and get a good number for you guys before this, but I mean, I've guided all sorts of deer hunts, antelope hunts, elk hunts. I've been on several lion hunts. Myself, I've never got a chance to harvest a lion. I know big bears. I've killed several big bears with clients, which is kind of another one of my fortes. I love shooting those big bears. I've been a part of a couple moose hunts, sheep hunts, goat hunts. I've been fortunate enough, especially the last 10 years or so, to go to some really unique places. We've been in super deep South Texas, on a guided hunt, which was the biggest frickin' joke I've ever been on in my life. We actually took a big part of the Sandy Hills guys down there. There was 3 Sandy Hills guides down there, and if it wouldn't have been for us, we wouldn't have killed an aoudad. And we ended up killing 7 of those sheep down there right on the Mexico border. I've been to Alaska bear hunting, all over Wyoming. So yeah, I've been super fortunate. I'm an outdoors nut, and I think a lot of the things that I take for granted, I know sometimes when I'm telling you stories, Garrett, and you'll get kind of wide-eyed and say, this guy has got to be full of shit. And then all of a sudden I can show you some pictures or something else to prove it, because I know I like to talk and some things seem far-fetched, but that's one thing I don't have is a dishonest bone in my body. So I've been super fortunate, man.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of fun about Shane is when you hunt with him, he's gonna razzle you sometime. You have to, really quick before we dive into the nitty gritty, you want to share a really quick story about a trick you played on somebody in Alaska, or is that something that's supposed to be kept under wrap?
No, not at all. This is so we were up there. We got a chance to go to Homer and hunt some coastal black bears.
This is hilarious.
We went up there in June. It was 2 years ago in June, and had no idea that, by the way, if you ever want to go to Alaska on a black bear hunt, don't go in June. That's when the mosquito hatch comes out. And the worst experience I've ever had in my life from a mosquito standpoint. But long story short, we had about a 45-minute boat ride from Homer across the bay to a super isolated cove with this lodge we were staying at. And the cook's name was Julius. He was an African-American gentleman. He was very feminine in his manners. So one of the guys that was with us, his name is Tad. And right away, Tad and Julius started drinking, and Julius was kind of drawn to Tad. One of the best cooks I've ever ate any of his food. I mean, it was just amazing. The stuff he could throw down on a grill or in the kitchen. But long story short, the first day we were out, I had texted my cousin Robert and said, hey, a lot of these guys that we're up here with don't know much about bears or anything, and I want to lend a hand. So I texted Robert and said, hey, send me Tad's number. So Tad had no idea where the text message was coming from. And to kind of condense this story, what I ended up doing was I told Tad that, yeah, this is Julius from camp. I'm the camp cook. And, I just couldn't help but notice all this energy that you and I had flowing through us last night. I never misread men, and I could feel your eyes burning through me. So this shit just blew up, right? This went on for like 2 days, and Tad was the biggest wreck you've ever seen in your life. The guy would literally start drinking handles of Pendleton at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And mind you, that time of the year, it doesn't get dark until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it gets light again at 5. He was drinking handles of Pendleton. He was so nervous. He couldn't talk to anybody. Every time we would come back from a hunt, Julius would come in and he's like, dinner's ready, boys. And he would come up to Tad and start rubbing his shoulders. And he's like, everybody likes Julius meat. And Julius had no idea any of this shit was going on, right? So Tad was in a state of panic for about 2 days until I finally called my wife, and she said, "You got to tell him or you're going to ruin this hunt for him." And when I finally did tell him, I don't think I've ever seen a sense of relief come off of somebody's face like that. He was so pissed and laughing so hard all at the same time. And he's like, "I thought this dude just wanted to throw me in the back of the kitchen in the walk-in cooler and do vile man things to me." I mean, it was just, yeah.
And
So,
everybody
great
else
story.
knew. That's the hilarious part. All the buddies on the hunt knew, except
Everybody.
for Tad and Julius. And,
Yep. The two people that were involved in it, they had no freaking idea what was going on. The boat captain was in on. I thought the boat captain was going to wreck us going across the harbor hunting bears. He literally was laughing so hard he fell out of the captain's chair and told me to drive the boat. And he just fed into it. It was a great freaking 3 days. But yeah, I don't really get over. People don't get over on me very much. But there's definitely some shit in the works right now. I had a good buddy that kind of got over on me here recently. But yeah, we'll talk about that sometime.
Oh yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Now getting into this, you got a hunter, and do you think that most of your clients are from the Midwest or like the Eastern country? I mean, because
Sorry, Garrett.
No, I just, for me, I've never thought about going east as like a flatlander in Illinois. It's always a dream to go west. If there's ever an option of like, are we going to go somewhere this year? It always seems to be point the truck west. Sometimes, there's a hint of let's go to Texas, but really for me and my group of people, it always is go west.
I don't really know what the percentages are, but I would say at least, just thinking back, at least 60 to 70% of our hunters are people that come from the Midwest and or down south in Texas or something like that. We do not have a lot of people that book locally. And, a lot of you guys are spoiled with giant whitetails but you don't have a real diverse, you don't have a lot of different things you can shoot. I mean, my wife and I can take off from the house right here where we live, and in 15 minutes we can see elk and whitetail and mule deer and antelope. And every once in a great while, you'll run into a bear or something. But I mean, that's all 10 minutes from the house. And it's just there's a lot of different animals that you can pursue out here. And that's a lot of those people's dreams from the Midwest and stuff, rightfully so. I mean, I live in it, and it's my dream every single day,
So to get into the informational side, let's say a hunter from the Midwest, they've decided they want to book a hunt. Doesn't matter what species. What are some things that they should look for? I mean, this is something that we struggled with, right? We've had some really bad experiences with guides or outfitters. I mean, is there anything that you would say, what should stand out to them if they're looking at the internet or if they're talking to them on the phone? What are some things that they should focus on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And, you and I have briefly spoke about this stuff, Garrett. But the thing about it is first and foremost, I think a website leads to a lot of opportunities just to view what kind of hunts you offer. But those websites, that's all fine and dandy. But what you want to look for on those websites is just year after year success. That's one of the things that Sandy Hills tries to do is we break stuff down every year so people can see the success that we're having year after year after year. And then as a consumer, as a hunter that's trying to book a hunt, what you should do is try to connect on a personal level with the owner of the company, and then maybe reach out to one or two of the guides. Talk to these people, get to know them a little bit, feel them out. If they're asking the right questions, it's a lot of work to try to do what we do. But we do that because we want to sell the best experience there is out there. But with doing that, we want to be informed with the questions that people have for us. We want to make sure that we're on top of stuff. So yeah, I would just look for that year after year success. Try to connect with people on a personal level. Ask very direct questions. If they have good, solid answers on direct questions, then it's probably a reputable organization that's going to do right by you. And there's a lot of them out there. I just think we're the best.
Well, You got us fooled too. But I will say this, that, and really quick about, and we talked about it when we had you on before, but when we booked, and I kind of booked the hunt for the team, Shane called multiple times and he asked questions that I appreciated as a hunter. Have we ever been out west? Have we ever hunted antelope? How far can we shoot? What's our gun? What's our gear? And he wasn't prodding or poking, but as a guide, if I were to reverse the roles, I think that's something that I would want to know. What's your physical fitness level? Like things that, maybe some people think is uncomfortable. Like if you're asking, can you shoot 500 yards or not? I mean, but as a hunter and as an outfitter, I think those are questions that need to be exchanged. And you were the only guide of any of the places that I've hunted with, and I haven't hunted many places, about 5 that has done that, and that really stood out to me.
I just think it's an element of planning too, like from an outsider looking in, Shane, because I wasn't not on the antelope trip with Garrett, Jeff, Jesse, and Logan. I mean, I remember Garrett talking about like, hey, I just talked to Shane again about our gear and et cetera, X, Y, and Z. And as a person that does planning for a living, as a teacher, if I go into the work week on Monday without a plan of what the work week's going to look like, that makes me kind of shitty at my job. And I think that extra, added courtesy of just taking the time out of your day to say, well, what is it that you are doing? What do you think you can expect? And I'm going to lay it out all on the table informationally for you. I think that that's really cool that you went out of your way to do that. So kudos to you again, man.
Yeah, it's something that I think is important. And not only does the client have to ask the right questions, right? The company has to ask the right questions, because we got a super diverse group of individuals that come out here. We've got older people, we've got younger people, we've got people that are really good shots, we've got people that can't shoot for shit. We've got, it doesn't mean that the effort is not there. You got to understand that a lot of times these people, these are dream hunts for them. And they save up, some people save up for years for that one experience. So you got to make sure that you're well versed, because, if you're trying to make a really good apple pie, there's 100 different recipes for a good apple pie, right? And not the same recipe works for the same individual. In order to get them success and make sure that they have a good experience, you got to change your ingredients a little bit too, and be flexible and be able to adjust. And there's no script that works for every single person. And I think that's where a lot of outfitters just break down. And honestly, I think that's where a lot of hunters break down. What worked for them one time doesn't mean it's going to work for them the next time.
Right. So we've gone over like what to look for. And I do think, I will say this again, if you guys have a minute, like us as modern outdoorsmen, I consider like our generation, we're tech savvy. We can jump on the phone and I can find Sandy Hill's website in 10 seconds. If you want to appreciate it, you should go there. And that's one of the first things, Shane, and you can pass this along to Nick and Jeremy, and I think I've told them already, that really drew me in. Your website is professional, it's clean, it's crisp, and you guys, like sharks, update that thing, especially even throughout the season. For me, if I'm going to a website and there's like a 2 or 3 year gap, but they're still taking bookings, that to me is a red flag. Why haven't you updated the last 2 years of photos?
Sure.
Or why haven't you given your website a facelift in 10 years? So speaking of that, it's a good transition into red flags. What should people, if they're on a website or if they're talking to somebody, if you're in their shoes and you see this or hear something, what should be like, ding, 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 something's not right?
You are being catfished at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. All of those are great points that we've been talking about. And red flags, honestly, are lack of communication from the owners, from the booking guy. If you don't get a lot of communication, if you don't get a lot of communication from that guy, then you probably ought to start looking from something else, because more than likely, if 2 months before the hunt, if you're not getting told what's going to be going on and what to expect, then when you get here, you're going to get a lot of the same. And that's why it's important to connect on that personal level. And like I said, a lot of those websites are smoke shows, man. They are smoke shows because, somebody gets one big lease and booms a couple big deer on one lease. They will push those 2 deer for years and years and years. But if you don't see that year after year success, and you got to understand as a consumer, right, your expectations got to be, I think that's a good point that kind of ties into this. Your expectations have to be realistic as a consumer, as a hunter that's trying to book these hunts, because I think hunting, and especially guiding and outfitting, is one of the few things out there that you truly get what you pay for. The guys that charge the trophy hunts that consistently year after year after year bang big animals, those guys, they understand what it's like to maintain, to sell that experience year after year after year. But you as a consumer, if you're looking to pay, say, $2,000 for a mule deer hunt, then you're probably going to get a $2,000 mule deer hunt.
Right.
I mean, that's just it. Your expectations have to be realistic. And one of the things that I want to jump back on real quick. We were talking about some things to look at. Take all the reviews that you guys read, or any hunters that are looking for this stuff. Take those with a grain of salt. Reviews are a great tool in the current day and age of information and technology. They're great, but you have to understand the success. Half of that success comes with the hunter himself. So if you got somebody that comes out on an elk hunt and can't walk for a half mile and has several opportunities, but he just can't get there, he's going to leave you a shitty review. Right. It doesn't matter what it is. And there's nothing you can do. You can try to respond. You can try to be cordial. The fact of the matter is you just had somebody that booked a dream hunt and didn't prepare and didn't do anything for it. And, and then it's all of a sudden your fault.
Well, I want to take a little second here to talk about a personal experience where I was buffaloed. This was a couple of years ago. It was one of those things. It was too good to be true. I had found a hunt down in Texas for pigs, and at the time we were in college, right? We didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, but we could save lunch money to go on a hunt. And so the squad went down south, and it was all on me, but I asked for some references, and the 2 guys that I talked to, yeah, this is a great place. You'll see a ton of pigs and da-da-da-da-da. And we get there, and as we were talking, we figured out that the 2 guys that I talked to were relatives of this guy. So it kind of in the same regards to what you're saying about a review or a reference. I mean, people can fragment them. I mean, you can have anybody leave a good review or a bad review, but to what you've been saying, you cannot fake pictures. You can't fake a dead animal, and you can't fake it year after year after year.
Nope, absolutely not. And, a lot of the times, I mean, some of our reviews, we offer some of our reviews with people. Well, Sandy Hills has got one of the highest return client ratings there is out there. I mean, just year after year, people rebook. And that's a great question to ask. As any hunter, if you ask a guy, an owner of any outfitting company, if you ask him, hey, what is your return client ratio? And if they tell you 10%, guys, it's time to pony up $1,500 more and get your shit straight and get with somebody that, that is going to get those return clients in. A 10% return ratio on an outfitting business is not kosher. You're not going to get, that's not a quality outfitter.
Right. So now looking at an outfitter perspective, and I understand that you're a partner, you're not the owner, but what do you think a hunter should expect from an outfitter? And in regards, I mean, we're just a couple things to think about here, like in regards to lodging and in regards to like meals, to travel. And when I mean travel, that is kind of once you get to your destination, trophy care and anything else. I mean, what do you think, being a guide and having dealt with clients of your own and going on your own hunts, you've gone on your own trips. What do you think a hunter should expect from the outfitter? And I know that this does go hand in hand with you get what you pay for.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, Garrett, I mean, you have to look at how the hunt is booked, because like Sandy Hills, a lot of our mule deer hunts and our antelope hunts, we hunt huge, gigantic expanses of plains territory out in eastern Colorado. So a lot of those hunts, the lodging is on the client, and we'll try to get a centralized location. It's so fluid, and those areas are huge. To get one lodge at a place is not just, it's not feasible for us with those type of hunts. But our elk experiences are completely different. It's very centralized location. We have certain specific units, and it's a soup to nuts deal. I mean, it's breakfast in the morning, lunch, bang up dinners at night. It's a nice lodge. People can sit around and drink whiskey, and hopefully I can take their money and poker at night. So, it's, I think it depends on how the hunt is booked. But number one, what you should expect from an outfitter is honesty. And number two, you're paying for a professional service. So I think it's the right of the consumer to be honest with that individual. But if you're asking for a professional level of service, and you're probably not with the right people, a quality outfit is going to give you that experience from the time that you arrive there until the time you get home. And that comes with animal care and everything else, and that's talking up front, about how to transport animals and cooler space and what to expect. And, when you guys came out last year, you're one of the few clients that I've ever guided that wanted to field dress animals and get better at that stuff. Usually people are completely hands off, which is fine. A good outfitter is going to do that and do a fantastic job taking care of all that stuff. But it's a super dynamic process, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into just killing an antelope or a mule deer or an elk or a bear. It's a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think this is one area to preface, as a hunter that would be booking a hunt, are you booking the hunt because you're going to sleep in a king-size pillow top bed, or because you're going to go kill an animal? In my experience and the way I see things is I'm going to go hunt. I'm going to hopefully have an opportunity. I mean, I'll sleep on the floor. I mean, you know what I mean? I guess I'm not booking the hunt to experience a vacation as far as like a 5-star resort. I'm going for the experience of the chase, of the journey, of the potential harvest. I think
Sure.
that a lodge can be a big caveat. It can be a nice cherry on top, but I just need a place to shower and sleep and get ready for the next day. I don't need this, like I said, some 5-star mansion that's got babouche hardwood floors in it and extravagant moldings and millwork. Does that make sense? And that's just my opinion.
Right. Well, and Garrett, look, there's outfitters out there that offer those services, but you have to be honest to yourself as a hunter and realize what it is that you want, right? I mean, there's some people out there that got these amazing 10, 12,000 square foot lodges and, 5-star chefs that come in and cook 3 times a day. And you spend 60% of your time in the lodge drinking whiskey and playing pool, and 40%, 20% driving to a place that you can get out and potentially harvest an animal. And that's fine. It's okay. Everybody's got different tastes. They got needs. They got wants. So that's okay for you to want a different experience than somebody else does. We try to focus on the animals and the experience, right? I mean, everything is right there on our website. We just dirt nap giant shit. And that's what you can, if you're going to put in the work, you're going to have opportunities to do that with Sandy Hills. It might not be the most lavish accommodations or little mom and pop greasy spoon restaurants that you have to eat at, but the experience you get with the hunt is going to be 100% the very best that anybody out there can give.
All right, now let's switch gears to a guide. Now, not just for Sandy Hills, because I know you guys revere yourselves to a specific expectation, but what should a hunter expect from their guide? I mean, if you got a chance to look at the outline, there's a couple things like ranging the animal, like something as simple as stopping the animal. I mean, calling your game, and then a big one is like trophy care. What should they expect from their guide?
Well, once again, part of that goes with the service level with the outfitter that you book with. But for me personally, I mean, I try to research the animals and understand the people so much before they even get there that I have played a million scenarios over in my head, time and time and time again. And a lot of times I've got lucky. A lot of times it was from preparation, so I think there's a lot of people out there that want to be guides, and there's a select few of people out there that are guides, that those guys can hunt and kill anything. They understand what an animal is going to react to, how they're going to react to different sounds, different techniques. Some animals that we hunt in Colorado are much more concerned with the wind. Some of them have a lot better vision, and you have to, I think from that perspective as a guide, your service level, you're participating in somebody's dream hunt. You better have your shit together from the time that you leave, from the time you get in the truck in the morning until the time you throw that animal in that truck, you better have your shit together. And I think it depends on what kind of animal you're hunting, because there's so many different scenarios that you can play through and work through, from elk to antelope, from a whitetail or mule deer to bear. There's a lot of different scenarios, but your level of professionalism and service doesn't waver. I mean, it's always there. You got to be the best guy with the knife there is there, because you're going to potentially throw whatever up on somebody's wall for the rest of their life. So that cape work, and a lot of these people come out and they don't have any idea, so they want to learn. So you have to be a teacher. You have to be somebody that takes control of situations, that has clear expectations of your hunter. You want to give them the best chance of the success that there is out there. So you have to be honest and upfront and be able to adapt in any situation.
So going to trophy care, I mean, do you think it's pretty standard across the board that the guide would skin and cape the animal?
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing this for 28 years, and you guys are the first people ever that have even helped hold a leg for me. I can't tell you how many deer, elk, antelope, bears, that I've ran a knife down, and I take a lot of pride in that. I think my cape work is really good. My cousin, well, it's actually Brooks' cousin, is one of the best taxidermists in the Western United States. He's won all sorts of shows, and I take a lot of pride in sending him animals. And he's like, man, your stuff is really clean. It's better than 98% of the stuff that I get in here. So I want to be diverse and be able to take care of those animals. I have a lot of respect for the animals too, It's not just about that hunter and what you're going to give those guys. I think you owe those animals that respect,
So then after the hide's pulled off, I mean, again, barring standard practice, do you think the guide would be, in charge of quartering the animal, of deboning the animal, of where do you think that line in the sand is drawn?
Honestly, I think the guide's responsibility ends when that stuff is loaded up in a cooler or a small deep freeze in the back of the truck and those guys are heading home. That's the way we view it, right? I mean, if we shoot an elk and you dirt nap a big bull on the mountain, it's coming out 100% on the guide's back.
Man,
and
your clients don't carry anything out
unless they request to. No, they don't.
I would feel so guilty. I would feel like a pile of shit if I watched some guy pack the elk I just shot off the mountain for me. And that's just me. And I get it. Maybe I'm hard nosed or something, but holy smokes, I would tip you just as much. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just feel like as an outdoorsman, I mean, I feel like that's part of like your right. Like it's the thing to do. I mean, see, oh man, that just kind of bugs me a little bit. And I know you've done it probably hundreds of times for people, but holy smokes.
Yeah, actually, I end up feeling like a pile of shit after I pack an elk off of a mountain too. But they're freaking heavy. But no, but there's outdoorsmen come in all shapes and sizes also, right? You have people that dream about this for 20, 30, 40 years, but they don't get opportunities to hunt anything. So they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And that's okay. They pay for that experience. You have people that have different level of commitment and drive and whatever. They might have the financial backing to experience some of those things, and that's okay. Because you got to take everything with a grain of salt and realize that ultimately your responsibility as a guide is to provide a really quality experience. I mean, you hear me talk about that all the time, Garrett. Experience. I have been able to be a part of a first memory with hundreds of people. And those are people that will never forget me or that one time when they were shot a deer or an elk or whatever it is with Shane. And I take a lot of pride in that. But, you know, they come in all shapes and sizes, forms, men, women, whatever it is. So your level of commitment as a guide can't waver for somebody that wants to pack anything out. I mean, that's great. It's just one less trip that you have to make, you know?
Sure. So kind of going along with that, Shane, you know, providing that entire experiences, I feel like some outfitters out there, at least in my opinion, and I try to do the best research I can. Unfortunately, fortunately, I suppose, I wasn't on that trip with Garrett and Matt when they went down to Texas with our buddy Cam, but they got completely and utterly hosed on that hog hunt. And ever since then, I've done my due diligence to say, where's your reference list? I need to talk to at least 10 references before I'm willing to book something. You know, and like Garrett said earlier, we've each been on about 3 to 5 guided hunts. It's not something that we do all the time. It's a once every other year or once every third year kind of thing for us. But in terms of the cost, and doing something domestically, and what I mean by that is within the United States, like a local hunt, you know, through somebody like you guys, I don't think there's a whole lot of red tape and like hidden fees, I would call them. But what are some unexpected costs that maybe somebody that's never ever booked a guided hunt before, Shane, other than, you know, your price tag on your hunt, what are some other things they should take into consideration?
Sure. Well, listen, one of the things that you have to check in, there's a lot of outfitters out there. There's a lot of quality outfitters out there that charge trophy fees for big animals, right? They have a base price for a hunt, and then they have a trophy fee on anything over a certain amount of inches. So you need to understand that as a hunter. And it's kind of a bummer because you need to know what your limit is, because you might let something that's a once in a lifetime opportunity for anybody in this world walk right in front of you because you simply can't afford that. But that's okay. There's a lot of good people that do that. And plus you have to understand, what you're hunting and what it entails. I think a lot of the mistakes that I see from people coming from the Midwest in particular, and not knocking on you guys, but I think your gear list, once you get it set, is pretty standardized, right? You hunt when it's super cold from a tree stand, and you bundle up in all your stuff in your little weird pull-on boots that you guys wear. I don't know why anybody would ever wear those, but and then you hunt early season when it's cooler. But if you don't come with good gear in the mountains and stuff like that, particularly on elk hunts or bear hunts, and it's expensive. It's a big investment. That's a price that you got to figure into those hunts up front. You know, your gear is essential. I mean, good packs and good boots and stuff that a lot of times in a mid to late September hunt, you might leave the truck in the morning or leave a side-by-side going on a 6 or 7 mile jaunt, and it may be 28 degrees when you leave, and it may be 60 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So you have to have good gear, you know, an old Carhartt and a set of Wranglers is not going to work with cowboy boots out there. That's another expense up front. And honestly, another expense that I don't think a lot of people figure into those hunts is simply these guides, you guys, they work on tips. It's not a glamorous lifestyle. They spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours through glass for months and months and months and months before. What most of the hunters that come out see is a very small sample of how hard these guys work out there. And I think a lot of people underestimate that. They have wear and tear on vehicles. They beat the shit out of stuff for 4 or 5 months out of the year. They're putting their own fuel in there. They get paid by the outfitter, but they're working to give you guys a service that's exceptional. And I know when I go on a guided hunt, I try to figure 10 to 15% of the overall cost of the hunt just as a baseline guide for me and as a tip to a guide. And then if they provide exceptional service, then as an individual, I do the right thing because I know what it entails, you know?
Yep. So another one is tags and land vouchers. And this was something that was very new for us last year, as it was the first time we were able to get a land voucher. I think there's a lot of really, especially professional outfitters that offer like landowner tags or guaranteed tags. And I think it's important to note that there is a cost associated with those. That's not a hidden fee, but those vouchers cost the guides or the outfitters, I should say, money, and they just can't give them to you. I think that's something that, again, I just glossed over, and it was because we're new to that. You know, here in Illinois, if you're a resident, and even if you're a non-resident, you're realistically guaranteed a tag. And it's stated right there up front what the cost is on the Illinois DNR website. We don't have landowner permits that we can issue. So I think that's something that's very important for people to take into consideration is that tag cost. And if you don't draw, that land voucher cost. And back to what you said, Shane, these are questions that people need to have up front before they book the hunt and understand the overall cost.
100%, because like Colorado, I mean, everything east of I-25, which Denver is essentially the divide line, it's right off the foothills, but everything east of I-25, well, not everything, but like 97% of the ground out there in the plains is private ground. So it's 100% draw for mule deer. We are afforded some really nice landowner vouchers through our lease land and stuff like that. So, you know, every outfitter does things a little bit different, Garrett, because some outfitters figure that voucher into the price of the hunt. But those are just questions you need to ask as a hunter looking to book a hunt and say, hey, you know, are my vouchers covered up front with my hunt costs? Do I have trophy fees? Am I going to get stuck with kill fees on top of this? You know, there's so many different scenarios, which if you have a good quality outfitter, he's going to be super transparent about that stuff and talk to you about that stuff, so you know what to expect up front, you know?
Yep. One last question before we get into your guiding pet peeves here is as a guide, when do you think a hunter should start planning to book their hunt? Like, should it be 12 months out, 18, 24? How far in advance should a guy really start calling on outfitters and thinking about putting their deposit down?
At a bare minimum, a year, and if not 2 years. I mean, because like with Sandy Hills, a lot of our mule deer hunts are booked up 2 to 3 years out in front of where we are right now. But it allows you a chance as a hunter to see what's going on in the years coming up to your hunt and do your research. And, you know, because man, I just think it's really important to get way out in front of it. You know, do your research, see what they're doing. We go back to that year after year success and stuff like that. I would get way out in front of it, at least a year. You know, the June, July timeframe for 2021, if you were to start talking to people and seeing where you're at this year in June and July for next year, that's a great plan.
Noted. Yep, I think you're right too, because I think not only does it give the hunter time to like ask the questions and get the references and everything else, but I mean, unless you've got quite the nest egg, like the gear is a big one for us because it's such a different gear cache than like you said, hunting in Illinois. I mean, there's things that allows you to kind of accumulate and buy and get and have ready for when you go. Not all of a sudden that you book a hunt 8 months out and then you're talking to the outfitter or the guide and he's like, yeah, you'll want a good pair of boots and you'll probably want, a pair of binoculars that are this power and you'll want a scope that's like this power. And all of a sudden you're looking at your stuff and you're going, oops, I'm from Illinois or Iowa or Wisconsin and like
my 3x9 Nikon scope is not going to cut it for a 400-yard shot at an elk, or my 3-pin sight 20, 30, 40 is not going to enable me to shoot an elk at 60 yards broadside, which, I have gotten into this argument with a couple people on social media before, Shane, and I think the biggest thing that the Midwesterners rag on, and in terms of the point you made about gear, and Garrett and I were talking about this the other day, as a person that, hunts, in our little rubber boots, as you call them, nobody around here owns a $400 or $500 pair of like crispy boots or anything like that.
I do now.
But Garrett picked himself some up the other day for $200 on sales at Shields so he can be prepared for his elk hunt this fall. But I feel like lots of Midwesterners, they'll see the price tag of like, a notable camo company like Sitka Gear or Kuiu, and they'll turn their nose up at it and be like, well, I don't have to do that because I can kill this deer in whatever. Well, it's totally a different kind of hunting, like you said. If you go up the mountain in muck boots and Carhartts and it rains on you, then have fun packing 15 pounds of water weight that your Carhartts just soaked up and getting your feet covered in blisters from wearing muck boots or, molded rubber boots on the mountain, where you guys don't have deer stands and trail cameras and food plot costs. All your gear costs are in the stuff that you're actually putting on your body and your optics and what you're topping your gun with and your weapon of choice. So I do think that's a good point, because a Midwesterner's gear list is totally, totally, totally different than a Westerner's gear list.
It totally is, and that's a great point. That's something that in thinking back on stuff, you just hit a really good point, Grant. I think a lot of Midwesterners, especially like with glass, I cannot tell you how many hundreds of hours a year that I spend through glass, and I'm a glass snob, and I'm a guy that I will save and save and save to get the best stuff out there for the application. I think that you are doing a disservice to yourself if you don't do that. But so many of these guys come out with, they're looking, and granted, I'm not super versed in whitetail hunting out of a tree stand or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I've been in one tree stand in my life, and that was a terrible experience. But, they come out with these 15, 18-year-old Bushnell binoculars that they can see 80 or 100 or 200 yards just fine out of their tree stand, and then try to put them on an elk that's 1,100 yards away, a deer that's 1.5 miles away in the plains. They're blowing away, That's a great point, man. Here's
one thing. I do want to go on a little segment here, Shane, and talking about hunt costs and expenses. Let's say, a Midwesterner does decide to book a rifle, and I don't care what it is, from antelope to elk. Do you think that it's standard practice? Do you think it's overstepping their bounds to maybe ask if the outfitter or the guide would supply a weapon? And what's your comfort level with that?
No, I don't think it's out of bounds at all. I mean, I'm a gun snob too. I build a lot of really cool guns, and a lot of those guys just aren't outfitted, and that's all right. I understand not wanting to drop $2,200 on a different caliber and a scope to come out on a one-time hunt. I'm one of those guys. As a matter of fact, last year I had a 13-year-old kid that took my 7 STW Persis, and he shot an antelope that was 80 6/8. He shot him at 689 yards off of shooting sticks. So he would have never been able to do that with his 3x9 Bushnell and his 6.5 Creedmoor.
No,
at all.
Nope.
So
And you got to tell the people what Persis is, because I mean, this gun is badass. And when Shane said he builds some bad guns, I mean, these are full custom rifles that I want you to just understand this. He measures his trigger pull in ounces, not pounds. Okay, and like his mounts for his scope might cost more than some people's rifles. And I'm just serious. Like entry level like bolt action rifle, the mounts for his glass cost more. This gun is a mean bitch or badass. I don't know. Is it a guy or a girl? I guess Persis could be universal.
Persis is actually the Greek god for destruction and war. So I like to nickname all my guns, and I got a whole bunch of different stuff named. But Persis is built on a Remington 700 Action. It's got a 29-inch 1 1/8 twist Bartline barrel. It's got a clamshell brake on it. I got an Athlon Cronus on top of it. And I'm one of those guys where I invest in those guns because I believe it's important to be able to tie your gun to the back of your pickup and drag it for a half mile and pick it up and shoot at a mile. I don't think I own hardly a gun that won't shoot at a half minute to a minute at 1,000 yards. So anytime you can shoot a 5 to 10 inch group, 5-shot group at 1,000 yards, that's pretty cool. But I spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours with load development and bench time and stuff like that. So when you get to that point with those weapons, I mean, your distance is just a number. You dial to it and kill it.
And so emphasizing the professionalism and kind of like the costs associated with a hunt, I think right here is a good point to highlight. Like, let's say outfitter X is $10,000 and outfitter Y is $8,500. Now, they're cheaper, but when you start asking questions like the availability of a rifle, well, really quick, how much money are you saving? There's a $1,500 difference, or let's even spread it out. Let's say that it's a $3,000 difference. But if you have an outfitter that has guides, that has rifles as nice as like what you offer to some of your clients, I mean, right there is a hidden expense that I think some people need to process before they book a hunt. Because realistically, Shane, Persis is not a $2,200 rifle. I mean, you don't have to tell how much it is, but I mean, when you threw that number out there, that's a number that shocks a lot of Midwesterners because their Remington 870 with their Nikon Slug Hunter is like a $600 package, and that's a nice gun, and it is a nice gun. But when you go out west, it's not, and
not even in the same league,
right? So I think that's a little asterisk that's there with the expense when you're alluding to like the $1,500 more, the $2,000 more really could step you into another category, but not only just step you into another category of an outfitter, but it's almost a wash if depending on, the opportunity and situation that's there. So just something I wanted to throw out there.
Well, if you get a chance to harvest something at 700 yards, that extra $1,500 means nothing, Right. You're going to remember that. You're going to remember that forever. That's a memory that 13-year-old kid will never, ever, ever forget, ever. So, And I've had a lot of instances. I can't even tell you how many times that I've pulled out my guns with people that just underestimated. I mean, Colorado's vast, whether you're in the mountains. I mean, Garrett, you got to experience that a couple of weeks ago, man.
Oh, yeah.
When you get in the mountains, it's brushy and it's gnarly. But some of them big canyon drops and stuff, you can shoot 800-900 yards across there. It might take you 4 hours to get over there after you kill something, but you have to be prepared for that stuff. And look, man, I know I'm not saying this arrogant at all. Yeah, I've got some really nice stuff. If you do the work with a 300 Win Mag and a Remington 700 and put a quality Burris on top of it that's $1,000 scope, you're going to have $2,000 into that gun. And that gun is going to work. It is absolutely going to work. There's people that do it with less, but there's people that kill shit year after year after year after year. And there's people that come out once in a lifetime and get lucky, So generally speaking, the people that are prepared are the guys that are going to keep doing it year after year after year.
I agree, man. So now get a little edgy here. What are some of your pet peeves of being a guide? Full gambit. I mean, from short tips to unprepared hunters, everything. What is it? What are some pet peeves? Or list them off.
So I have three major pet peeves as being a guide. First and foremost is it's a hunter that comes out unprepared, because I feel like it's a dead kick in the nuts to me when I have spent so much time trying to get in shape and spending time looking through glass to identify animals and look at animals and hone my calling skills. And I'm pretty handy with that stuff. And I want to be the best there is out there at that stuff. But if I got a guy, I'm not expecting everybody to come out. We've got guys that come out in really good shape, but they underestimate the mountains. Those mountains are man killers. It's beautiful. It's vast. But if you're not prepared, if you haven't worked on your cardio, they will eat you up. If somebody simply cannot go because of laziness and they thought money was going to get them in a situation, it absolutely irritates the hell out of me. It just drives me nuts, because I'm here saying we can kill this 350 bull. We can kill this 200-inch mule deer. We can kill this 80-inch antelope. And they simply can't go. And then they're upset at me for not giving them those opportunities when they had 15 months to get ready to do it before they come out. That's the number one thing. Number two is the people that book these hunts and they come out and they know more than the guide that's taking them out. I get so fucking tired of somebody trying to tell me how to call an elk or different things that I should have done. And I'm like, you have seen two in your entire life and it was in a zoo. I understand how many times that you have watched the Outdoor Channel and looked at YouTube videos and this and that. Like, allow me the opportunity to do my job until I'm not doing my job. And it absolutely drives me nuts. There is so many people. It's okay to not know how to do something. We missed an opportunity to come out there this spring with you guys and go turkey hunting. I have shot 2 turkeys in my entire life out of a pickup window, and I probably had way too many Coors when I did that when I was much younger. But I don't know anything about turkey hunting. I would be like a duck out of water with you guys and ask the most retarded questions ever. But it's okay for me to say I don't know what I'm doing. But that's why I would rely on you guys to come out there and do that. That just absolutely drives me nuts. And then the last thing is like I said, I think you said it before we even started talking about this, is just the short tip deal. I don't, there are outfitters out there. There's a lot of really quality, good people out there, but I know our group, Sandy Hills, the guys that are on our bio on our website, and our owner in particular, we work our ass off. Jeremy leaves the house every morning at 4:00. He's glassing for 3 or 4 hours right now. He's leaving in the afternoon at 2:00. He's probably spending 6 to 10 hours a day through a spot and scope for the next 4 months for these people. And he's been doing that for months. And I know I do the same thing. Don't disservice somebody because you didn't have enough money to book the hunt in the first place. By saying what you did was excellent. Here's a $50 Sportsman's Warehouse gift card. It's awful.
Yeah, I would be. Yep, I hear you. So, rolling off of that, what's your worst experience as a guide? I mean, I'm sure there's a couple that really are burnt into your brain. What are they? Or what's one that stands out?
Well, I lost a lady one time, but that was an accident.
What? Did you find her?
I totally did. Yeah, it was awful. I was probably 19 years old, and there was a little bit of miscommunication. A lot of miscommunication. We ended up finding her like 5 hours later. She had got lost trying to walk out of a ground blind that we had made with some oak brush. And I've never been so scared as a guide in my entire life. I've been pretty lucky over the years. I've never really had really bad experiences, but I think a couple things that stick out in my mind is I truly have a ton of respect for the animals that I get to pursue. I just get lost in watching elk go at it and big mule deer and antelope and anything. But Man, I have seen some people come out, they're really ill prepared. I shouldn't have let them shoot. Terrible, terrible, terrible decision on my part. And man, some of these animals have really got shot up real bad before I could make an ethical kill shot on something or get up with a knife. And that tears me up. It bugs me. And I got a lot of certain examples, but I don't want to muck anybody out. But that's happened to me several times, and it eats at me. And I think it's actually made me a better guide, because I've tried to give people better opportunities and get them in better positions. And I think it's made me, as I've got older, try to research people more. It's horrible when you see an animal suffer. And for me in particular, I don't know why, but I have a big heart, and I have so much respect for those animals. And I've killed everything. I can't even tell you, but that really tears me up.
I think that would be a hard thing for me, just with my personality, Shane, is separating what I can do versus what my client could do. I think that would be a difficult line for me to kind of blur and understand, because I bet there's been times where you're looking at something, you're like, I could make this shot, or I could have killed that thing 10 times out of 10, but understanding the limitations of the person behind the gun or the bow, that would be something that I would struggle with. Yeah.
It is awful when you see somebody bunk a shot at 140 yards and blow a front leg off an antelope, and they run 2.5 miles, and then they gut shoot them and shoot them up the back straps. And, it's just awful. I got a lot of examples like that, but it's stuff that should be routine for people, outdoorsmen especially. Those people that book hunts, whether they book hunts or just pursue animals, period, you have a responsibility to the animal. That's why your prep time up front means something, It absolutely means something.
Well said, Shane. So from your perspective, what are some things that you are wanting to hear a hunter ask, or wanting to see a hunter do or bring to the hunt? What are your checklists of kind of a person that you is a client of yours that you're like, wow, I respect this guy from the get-go. I can tell that they are
like
on
the model
ball.
client.
Yep, like your ideal client. What do you want them to do, ask, bring?
So that's somebody to me that asks what it entails to pursue the animal that they've booked that hunt with, what caliber we need to be looking at, how far they can expect a shot, how much walking we're going to do. There's a bunch of different scenarios within Sandy Hills, and it's a lot different on an elk hunt than it is on an antelope hunt. An antelope hunt is a ton of fun. You ride around in a truck, you tell a ton of stories, you get some half-crouch stalks for maybe up to a mile. You might blow a couple of them and do several of those a day. But I want that person that wants to learn from somebody. What can I do? Is there something that I can do better before I get there? How far do I need to shoot to? Do I need to be looking at different caliber choices? Or, an elk is going to absorb a whole lot more punishment than a whitetail does in the Midwest. So your 243, I don't even know if you guys can use bolt rifles out there, but a lot of those guys in Georgia and stuff, 243, they're pounding whitetails with them. That's not a good caliber choice for an elk hunt out here. And I want somebody that's going to ask those questions, what they can expect from me, how I'm going to set up hunt scenarios, that's inquisitive and ask this stuff before we're walking up the mountain that day.
All right. That pretty much covers it. In terms of like a story that comes to mind recently, I guess somebody messaged me out of the blue and they were like, hey, what's your name? And I was like, Grant Putnam. And he said, I've been watching you guys on YouTube. And I said, okay, who are you? And he said his name, and he was like, you guys kill some really good horned bucks. And for those of you guys that aren't from the Midwest, I've never heard anybody before call a whitetail a horned buck. And this guy, come to matter of fact, Shane, was an outfitter in Patagonia for red stag in Argentina, which is an animal hopefully I'll get to shoot or go pursue one day in my life. And he gave us an opportunity, and I and I tried to be as thorough as I could. And I actually, you know, going back to a question Garrett asked to you earlier about the hidden costs, you know, the hunt was going to cost about $2,000, but the plane ticket down there was about $1,500, and then there was 2 services to get the meat and the cape and all the stuff back to the States that were going to add about $3,000. So it was going to be about a $5,500 hunt before the tip. So, you know, I do think that, like you said, the clients that want to take it seriously and that are preparing themselves months and months and if not years in beforehand are going to, you know, be your best clients. But kind of piggybacking off of that and your best clients, what's your best hunting memory as a guide?
There's actually 2 things that stick out. I mean, I've had some really hilarious moments. I've had guys get on shooting sticks. They get so wound up, they forget to rack a shell. Then they'll pull the trigger and just start racking shells out of that magwell. You know, you get people that forget to load guns, but I was about 22 years old and I had an older couple, Cynthia and Chuck, come out, and they came out from Georgia, and they were about mid to late 60s. And Cynthia was actually a pretty accomplished whitetail hunter. They'd shot some decent whitetail deer down in Georgia. And Chuck had an HVAC system that they had sold and finally got enough money that they could travel and do some hunting. And Chuck had an elk tag, Cynthia had a deer tag. And we got Chuck on a pretty decent, he was a 5x6, a raghorn 5x6 bull that we shot. And Chuck had told me, he said, you know, Cynthia, her dream forever is to shoot a big mule deer. Well, we ended up getting the opportunity, and she made like a 309-yard shot on a really nice 191-inch typical deer. And we walked up to that deer, and she was just tears just streaming down her face. And I was a 22-year-old kid, and she hugged and hugged and hugged me and just told me thank you and thank you and thank you. And at that moment, at that time, I think older now, I would have appreciated it more. But about 3 months after they were out, Chuck had, he called me and he said that Cynthia had passed. And I don't remember the logistics, what had happened. She had a stroke or something. It was very unexpected. And he said that I had been able to be there on a lifelong dream for her. And to look back and re-examine that emotion that lady showed and know that I was there and I got to do something before the good Lord took her that was a bucket list, a true bucket list for her. I think that's one of the best memories that I've ever had as a guide. And I've got hundreds of great, great memories. But, man, that's just something that sticks out to me time and time and time again when I reevaluate my career and what I've got to do for people and people that have become really good friends. Yeah.
That's incredible, man. That'll hit you deep too. I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of the turnaround and that she was able to come experience that with you and then unfortunately passed. I mean, nothing will hit you harder than that, man. So
and that's
thanks
what
for
it's all
sharing
about.
that story.
And that's what it's all about.
Pretty
I mean,
deep.
you said it in the episode, and you guys, when our episodes launch this fall, you watch Shane. This is what he lives for. It's that experience. And it's more than just a kill. So that's pretty awesome, dude. And we're moving on to the Would You Rather segment. I've got 2 kind of hard ones for you, and then Grant's got some rapid fire questions. You didn't get to see these. So the first Would You Rather is this upcoming season, all of the hunters that you have, you personally, would you rather have your archery hunters run a 75% harvest rate or your rifle hunters run a 100% harvest rate?
Definitely the archery hunters with the 75% harvest rate, because there's a lot of people that are really shitty shots with a bow. And I can only do so much, but man, 75%, the harvest rate for elk in the state of Colorado is somewhere around 9%.
Yep.
9.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but out of that 9%, I really think if you went through the numbers, I think about 70% of the people kill that 9% year in and year out, But if I could I'm going to give people that opportunity I feel like I can control the situation. The majority of the archery hunts I run are with elk. That's where I'm at home, is in the mountains in that rut. So I would get my right arm to have a 75% harvest rate in archery season.
All right. So now elk again. There's a 350-inch bull. He's a nice bull. He's a big bull. Not nice. That's big. Okay.
That's a giant.
He's broadside and standing still in both cases. Would you rather have a bow hunter? Now, this is their equipment, okay? Not yours. It's their equipment. Would you rather have a bow hunter take a 65-yard shot or a rifle hunter take a 650-yard shot?
Shit.
That's hard.
That's a really hard question, because you're asking me to pinpoint somebody that I really know nothing about, aside from the talks that we've had before. I would honestly, Garrett, on either one of those scenarios, I would probably be the dick in that case and just say no go. Not unless I was confident in their abilities, and I don't mean to chicken shit the question. But you just said that I don't know anything about these people. Yeah,
they're a normal client. Yep.
I would tell them no. I would refuse the shot opportunity on either one of those. So.
All right. Interesting.
Man.
Have you ever, and this is like a side question. Have you ever told somebody no and they still shot?
Yeah. That's happened to me a couple times.
Oh, boy.
I had a guy lob a 30-06 round at a deer at about 800 yards. He had missed 2 times, one at about 170 yards and another time at 231 yards.
So then he thinks he can Chris Kyle one? Jesus.
I don't know. I don't even know if he got it out there, but but there's been several times that I've asked people not to shoot and they've done that anyway. And that frustrates me. I get a little frustrated at the situation. And got to keep it in mind. It seems to happen a lot with kids and people that just do not have very much discipline, that have not hunted very much. The situation gets too big for the moment. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep. I think what happens is you hit it on the head. And barring both children and people that don't hunt very much, those people that take shot they shouldn't oftentimes haven't developed or do not respect the animals yet. You know?
Yep.
So, well, now Grant's got some rapid fire ones for you, and these are just one answer real quick, bang, bang, bang.
All right,
he's going to go down the list.
Here we go, Shane. Would you rather have 5 out of 10 boots on the mountain or 5 out of 10 optics? So run-of-the-mill, completely average in every way.
5 out of 10 boots on the mountain.
Whoa! So you would rather have superior optics than boots?
You're breaking up a little bit, Grant. I might not have understood the question, bro.
Sorry, I said, would you rather have mediocre boots or mediocre optics?
Oh my God, I would take the optic. The boots are everything in the mountains. I would hunt naked if I had good boots on, every single day, literally. No kidding, in the mountains. I would literally run around up there with some knee-high, the old school football socks that are striped, and completely naked if I had good boots. I would take the boots every day.
Okay. Would you rather guide mule deer or guide elk hunters?
I would rather guide elk hunters in the ruts, but I would rather kill big mule deer, personally.
Okay. Would you rather hunt elk with a rifle or hunt mule deer with a bow? This is you hunting now. Would you rather elk hunt a rifle or rifle hunt an elk or bow hunt a mule deer?
I would rather rifle hunt an elk. And I know that I completely contradicted myself because I said I like killing big mule deer, but for my jam is honestly is archery, hunting elk, and rifle mule deer. You've got everything completely backwards for me. If you would have asked me that question, it would have been a really tough go.
Okay. Would you rather eat elk steak or canned bear meat? I've heard canned bear meat's pretty delicious. Which would you rather have?
I would rather eat elk steak any day. I don't know who told you. I've shot a lot of bears, and unless I'm missing something, I've done a whole lot of recipes, but I would actually rather just throw elk droppings in my mouth and gnaw on those a little bit than eat much bear meat. It is shit.
Really?
Whoa.
Wait, I've never had neither, so.
So I've had one good elk steak or bear steak in my life, but most of that stuff is so foul, especially you guys don't understand, man. Those big boars they stink so bad. It's greasy. It makes really good sausage. It's awesome sausage, but give me the elk steak any day. Yeah. That is a filet of the mountains, man.
Mm-hmm. I know you can't resist a good sausage, Shane.
Yeah.
All right, Shane, if there was one state you could live in out west that was not Colorado, what one would you have your eye on?
Does Alaska count? It's west.
No. I was thinking lower 48 with that question.
Montana for sure.
Why?
I think Montana offers a lot of the same things that Colorado offers. Plus, you get to step into the wolves and the grizzlies if they can get these grizzlies delisted again. But it's got great whitetail. It's got big mule deer. It's got unbelievable population of Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett elk. So Montana would be for me.
Okay.
Well, Shane, that brings us to conclusion here. I just want to say thank you again for jumping on. This will go live not tomorrow, but the Monday following, and I'll make sure and send you the link and give you the text. But is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I just appreciate you guys. You know, it's funny because I remember all of us talking about friendships and different things when you guys came out last year, and I appreciate all you guys and enjoy your friendship, and you know, any knowledge that I can share and be honest about situations, I'm happy to do it at any given time. And Grant, you're due out here, bud. We got to get you out. So,
well, you're going to get to meet Grant because you and Robert, and I don't know if I've convinced Tanner yet or not, but you guys have to come out this spring. There will be no Rona to worry about, and we'll get you on some Thunder Chickens out here. I'm hoping that we can get you to shoot one in self-defense.
That's what I'm looking forward to. And Tanner's not a necessity. I mean, he's, you know, it's okay. We'll get through without him.
All right. Well, tell Brooke I said hello. Go play with your son, and I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you again for coming on.
Later, guys. Thank you.
Good guy, man. He's like the guy that if he lived here or we lived there, like we'd probably be there right now. You know? So, it's crazy. I mean, I feel like you guys, and he said that, he's like, I feel like I know Grant, and I never even met him yet. You know what I mean? Like you guys text each other and stuff, and I mean, and it also does kind of feel a little weird, honestly, that we're not going out there and hunting with Sandy Hills this fall. So, bummer, bittersweet, but we'll get him in the roster here really quick.
Yeah, next year we'll be out there, and like you said, 9 months from now we'll see him during turkey season.
Oh yeah. So well, give him the closeout.
Sure. So for those of you guys that this is your first time listening, thank you again for listening to the Last Breath Huntcast. If you have not checked out our YouTube channel, you should do that. Hit the subscribe button and let us know what you think in the comments. We're actually doing a giveaway right now. We're closing in on 3,000 subscribers slowly but surely, which is awesome. We started the year off with about 900, so to make it to 3,000 in just this half year has been awesome, and we've got a lot of plans to grow that channel coming forward this year. So one of those plans is every single Monday you'll be able to watch a video podcast there. Every single Wednesday you will be able to watch a Last Breath Live episode there. So that's going to be our live series that we're going to be doing throughout elk season, antelope hunting, whitetail season, stuff like that you guys will be able to tag along with us. And every single Wednesday we'll be able to bring you new fresh content rather than waiting for like the launch party or it to air on YouTube or Carbon TV after we've edited like the professional looking stuff that we want to put our mark on. We're going to kick out a bunch of rough stuff every Wednesday. Every Thursday we have a Throwback Thursday episode, which we have 8 deer over 165 that we're still holding locked in the chamber to drop on Thursdays for whitetail season, so check that out. And then our big thing is Moultrie's image autopsy. So we have 13 different bucks that we've killed using extensive trail camera history, and every single Sunday on our YouTube channel, you can watch a new episode. So by the time this airs, we will just have finished up our 3rd episode. That will have aired yesterday, and that would be the story of Fade and how Matt and Jesse had killed Fade. So you guys are going to want to check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So our new season, we will be airing that on Saturdays, starting in early December, which will be about a week after this podcast airs. So
September.
Did I say December?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, September. So that'll be our 5th upload of the week. So we'll have new content every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Man. Boom.
So lots of stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have not checked out our Facebook group that Garrett made yet, you should, because we've got a lot of discount codes within that group, and I actually have them right here on the table. So to get 20% off and free shipping for any Code Blue products site-wide, which Garrett's working on a Moultrie code as we speak, to get any product from Code Blue's website, you can just use the code LB20OFFCB. To get 25% off any piece of Badlands gear, you can use the code BadlandsLBVIP25, as in 25. And to get 35% off any Outdoor Edge product site-wide, you can use the code, and this one's kind of weird, so I'm going to say it a little slower, MNDK93J3. So if you want some cutlery to add to your arsenal or to your pack this whitetail season, for most of you guys that are listening that are whitetail hunters, you can get yourself a really nice replaceable blade knife from Outdoor Edge that's superior high quality, will last for seasons to come, and you can get it at a good discounted rate through us. So that's pretty much all I have for them. Do you have anything else?
No, just thanks for listening. I would like to add and say, though, wholeheartedly, I mean, we booked the hunt. Sandy Hills doesn't pay us at all to endorse them. But I can just tell you right now, if you want to go over there and look at their stuff, they're exceptional. Being a regular guy that's been on several hunts, several really bad ones that we paid just as much for, Sandy Hills has stood out in our book. So you can, if you want any personal references, I filmed everything. So I went on every hunt. Didn't hunt, but I filmed everything. I was on every experience. My wife, Logan, went on one. Jesse, Jeff, and his brother, Chris. I feel like if you would want to reach out to any of us, we'd give you our honest opinion of our experience and go from that. But other than that, this has been pretty cool, this podcast. Glad you started it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk to you guys later and see you in the next episode. Don't waste it.